Do you think
Okay.
more Hindu Vata actually needs to stand up and say, listen, this is what we actually stand for. We're not actually against Muslims. We want to see a better integration between the two communities. Do you feel that could be done better also?
Yes, I think a majority of the Hindutva people are like on the liberal side, but they need to stand up and tell to the like the more regressive side that know your place. But that happens. There is like a Raita wing, like there are trads because the right wing, like the liberal right wing started calling them trads because they were like go back to the old ages, and they said that you are fake right wing, you are Raitas, which means like a curd, like curd in Hindi. So there is this division, and the Raitas and trads often fight amongst each other. There is this, but I think the Raitas representation needs to increase.
We just got a $20 super chat by D. So thank you so much, D. That's a big super chat. Thank you. By the way, friendly Muslim, I do disagree with that. I don't think like, for example, friendly Muslim, do you think like more Muslims should come up and condemn attacks by radical Muslims?
Um, yes. I don't.
I don't because they're
Muslims will
Muslim
say no
more
because it's
than
got nothing to do. But I also feel that other communities don't get to understand. They think our silence means that we endorse it, and sometimes I feel that we, uh,
do you
we
think
need
do you
to
think
speak
like
up and say we don't
let's
want
say
that.
a radical Muslim, let's say, does a terror attack somewhere, okay?
Hmm.
Do you think a Muslim has a more of a responsibility to condemn that than a non-Muslim?
Oh man, I hate you because you
I
just
don't
asked
think
me a
so.
question. Oh,
But when
dude.
it comes to the government, like
Wait,
in India,
let
because
him answer. I'm answering.
okay, okay, okay.
Oh, you're actually making me go against what the Muslims said. Because I had a conversation with someone and said, we don't need to. Why is it whenever there's something extreme, we have to say it's wrong? But then I'm like, people want us at points to say, listen, we stand against this. They want to see a unity from the Muslims also. So, but then you just posed a very good question. Do I literally have, I'm standing next to somebody, we should both equally want to condemn what's happened. No,
Okay,
I
so
don't think.
like
you got a point.
Yeah, I
what I
agree. I agree with Satya. I don't think like the Muslim has a higher responsibility than a non-Muslim. Like I don't think like if an atheist tomorrow goes and says like in the name of I don't know what, in the
gravity,
name of
gravity.
I don't know for the sake for atheism and then kill somebody, I don't think like I have a responsibility more than before to come like I mean it would be good if I come and condemn it, right? But I don't think I have an extra responsibility just because the guy happened to be a god atheist. You know what I mean? Like
But what
why?
if like there is an atheist government? You had made that government win, and there are like two factions. One is like the radical atheists, and one is like the moderate atheists. And the government thinks that the radical atheists have like a lot more share than they do have on the ground, and it sometimes like looks away on the other side. Then I think you would say that the moderate atheists should say that what the government is doing is wrong, and you should look at us. We are the real people here.
Everybody should. I mean, everybody should say this. Like everybody, like the responsibility. Okay, so for example, if a Muslim, okay, let's say there's a Muslim who's not like very peaceful. Okay, let's say for
Yes.
example he's condemning, I don't know, North Korea. Like he's focusing on North Korea and he's condemning North Korea. Okay, and
Yes.
he's like, or he's involved in activism in like I don't know, um, in climate change, or like he's trying to his mind is focused on saving the Amazon. Okay, he's a Muslim and his work and activism is focused on saving the Amazon. That's his activism. Okay, I'm not gonna be like, hey, you are why didn't you condemn that radical Islamic attack? Or like that's not what I'm like. Why? What he could look at me like, why haven't you? Like you do it. Like you're following that news, you condemn it. I'm doing something else here. You know what I mean? Like what? Like I think if I think this Muslim person, because of being Muslim, has a higher responsibility to condemn an Islamic radical attack, I am. This is kind of a guilt by association. I'm like, oh, this is one of your people. I'm like, what do you mean it's one of my people? I'm not in favor of those attacks. This has nothing to do with me. Like, if you're a part of the world, if my, I think as an atheist who might be involved in covering news around that topic, I would be even more responsible for highlighting that than him. You know, like if I don't highlight the news, you could even as an atheist, you could come and tell like, "Hey, Armin, isn't this your job? Why haven't you highlighted this?" But that Muslim, even though he's a Muslim, he's like, his work is like, I don't know, saving the Amazon. You should attack him if he fails to do his activism right. You know what I mean?
Yes, but
I just
like, what if you put him in spot and then he like looks the other way and say that I won't comment? What then?
okay. So yeah, I mean, if you're put on the spot, maybe you should be like, yeah, obviously I condemn it, but then I will want to put you on the spot for putting him on the spot, because by putting him on the spot, because he's a Muslim, you just did guilt by association. So yeah, sure, he should, like, maybe if put on the spot, then he could be like, yes, I am against this. Obviously, this is wrong, but then now we have to turn the focus on you. Like, why did you do that? Why did you put him on the spot? Like why would you associate him with an act that you have no reason for him to be in support of, simply because he's a Muslim? You know what I mean?
Yes, I think that's right. But when it comes to like ideologies like atheism, communism, Hindutva, like all these ideologies, I think the radical minority is like so loud that the moderates who are working in that field should also speak up that look, we are the real people.
I mean, I think instead of the word should, we should use the word it would be good.
Yes, it would be good. Yes.
Yeah, because when we should, we're introducing a responsibility, and I don't think that responsibility exists. I think you could
Yeah.
like encourage them. You could be like, I want to encourage moderate Muslims to call this out, not say like they should, because
Yes,
where is
yes,
this should coming from? Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Like it should not be required
Mhm.
that if somebody doesn't say this, then you call him like you label him a bigot. But it would be nice if they said it.
They should be invited to condemn it, not act like this is a must.
Yes, agreed.
Should I stand up for ex-Muslims? So if an ex-Muslim has been persecuted, do you think I have a responsibility to stand up for an ex-Muslim and condemn any actions?
Only if you're involved in that certain type of activism, then that's your responsibility by definition. But not because you're a Muslim. Like, if you're a Muslim that is like, I don't know, a nurse, and you're involved in some helping patients, I wouldn't feel like, no, then you don't have that responsibility. I mean, it would be
Wow.
appreciated though.
Can you imagine how many Muslim, like, honestly, just even if I clip this last 2 minutes of you supporting a Muslim view that they shouldn't have to condemn this, which actually goes against how I feel about certain times when it should be. That's a clip in itself, because a lot of
I don't
Muslims will
understand.
understand that about
Why
you.
would a Muslim? But why would a Muslim be responsible? Why would you think a Muslim is responsible for supporting ex-Muslims? Like, what is that? Why is it like? Why would they do that with ex-Muslims and not, like, I don't know, um, some other groups that are being oppressed somewhere else? You know what I mean? Like, for example, why not? Why would they, as a Muslim, why would it be your responsibility to call out the mistreatment of ex-Muslims more than the mistreatment of, I don't know, Sunnis in Shia Iran, for example?
No, no. By two definitions, it's whether I'm an activist in part of it, then yes, it would be by definition, which you pointed out. I've actually I've actually learned quite a lot from you today. And also by no definition that, okay, fine, I shouldn't have a place of calling out anything because I'm not the one involved in any sort of support of any sort of persecution or bad treatment. But yeah, I morally, people expect us to talk though, and they want to hear our voice.
If you say a Muslim is responsible to speak in support of ex-Muslims more than any other group that is being oppressed for some other reason, you're technically suggesting that they're somehow responsible,
Yeah, no, no, I don't. I'm not
right?
holding that
And that would
position.
be,
No, no, I'm not
yeah, and
holding
that
that.
would be guilt by association. I mean, I would, if, for example, if a Muslim says, like, if I ask a Muslim, like, why are you not saying anything about ex-Muslims, and they say, like, I'm actually fighting for animal rights, and so I'm doing my part in this world, I would be like, okay, fair enough. You know what I mean? Like, I'm doing something good. Like, I'm fighting for chickens. They're abusing chickens, and I'm saving chickens. I can't do ex-Muslims and chickens at the same time. Okay, I'm already exhausted saving chickens. I'm like, fair point.
Like
Like, you're doing something good. Like, I think the expectation should be like, I am trying to reduce misery in this world to some extent. If you think like I should focus on this specific thing because I'm a Muslim, then you're suggesting that I'm somehow responsible, and I think that's not a good suggestion.
I think they should also be allowed to like have a like chill time while not doing any sort of activism, not doing any sort of good work, and just enjoying their life. And if you ask them, do you condemn this? Then if they say that, okay, I will condemn this like with to you, but in public I won't, because if I condemn this, then I will have to find like be aware of the news and like be condemning also like condemn every other thing
Yeah,
too. So I don't want to
yeah,
get in that
exactly.
mess. So like
There's so many messed up things that are happening all the time. If you like try to like, hey, why didn't you condemn this? So like, dude, if I have to condemn this, do you know I should like quit my job and not sleep and just go on YouTube and just read the list of all the things that I need to condemn. You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. Like for you to expect me to condemn all of those things. It doesn't make any sense.
Armin, could you highlight this comment by T.S. Suru? This is a perfect example. His first comment, should not, yeah. So now with this, now this is an interesting point. So
Read it.
okay, so at Secular Jihadists, of course, an individual Muslim should not be held to account. For example, the Muslim who recently killed people in Norway, but I damn sure expect Muslims to cooperate with the police. Now, this is an interesting part about this. It's
but I
been
expect
determined.
everyone to cooperate with the police.
No, you know, that's fine. It's been determined that he's got mental health issues. The fact that he is a Muslim may just be secondary, but the fact that he does have mental health issues is part of the actual situation. Now, another gentleman who had mental health issues committed a similar crime in another country, but they never mentioned his religion. This is where I have a problem. That do I need to speak up or do I not need to speak up? And where it's determined that someone has mental health issues and they've committed a crime, why does their religion hold any value? Because as far as a Muslim would be concerned, they have mental health issues, therefore they're not subject to any sort of Muslim, religiosity. They're not in their right mind to follow the religion
No,
or
I
be
would criticize.
accountable.
I would say something else. Okay, let's say, for example, this guy had no mental health issues, and he did everything he did specifically because of Islam. Okay, it was Islam and not mental health issues. Okay, I don't. I just when you say I would, when the comment says I sure expect Muslims to cooperate with the police, as opposed to what? Like, should Muslims cooperate? You expect Muslims cooperate with the police? Wouldn't you expect everybody to cooperate with the police? Like, and non-Muslims, like, if they could help in this situation, they should also be cooperating with the police. So, what does someone? I'm hearing some echo. What does someone's being a Muslim or not being a Muslim change that factor here? Like, I don't understand how would that calculation change? I'm hearing echo. Satya, I'm hearing echo from your mic.
Wait a second, let me mute myself.
Friendly Muslim, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And he's justifying it on his second comment that,
Okay.
again, that secular jihadists, for example, why did some of the Islamic terrorists in France manage to hide in some Muslim majority neighborhoods until the police found them? Because, Muslim brother. Now, they are obviously part of the same clique. And I've also known of gangs that are hiding criminals that are wanted by the police that are non-Muslim. It does happen. They are part of a conspiracy. I don't necessarily think that's a Muslim brother problem. I think that is there is a group of individuals with an ideology that are protecting someone that is wanted by the police. It happens. Gang members are how many people, top 10 most wanted, are hiding within this. They always go for their family members. They always go for associates. This is very typical of any sort of criminal behavior who's wanted by the police. They will go underground with family, with associates, and not cooperate with the police. I mean, how many gang members are cooperating with the police? So again, see, this is the whole Muslim comparison, which I feel isn't fair. And that's what we need to speak out against.
No, so what I would say here is that the people who helped this person get away and they didn't cooperate with the police, the issue, the part that we are condemning, it is the fact that they hit that person, not the fact that they're Muslim. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have this issue with Muslims who didn't hide a criminal. We have the issues with these people who did hide the criminal. So the key factor here that we're condemning is hiding the criminal, not them being Muslim. So again, that's what I'm saying. We have to isolate these factors. So when you say I expect them to cooperate with the police, even if they were not Muslim, you will still expect them to cooperate with the police. So them being Muslim or not being a Muslim is not at all a factor. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and therefore I shouldn't have to speak out against it, which actually agrees with Armin's. Yeah, there we go. Okay.
I might actually like, if so, for example, if there is an atheist who comes out and says like for atheism and then kills a whole bunch of people, I might actually go. I don't know, because I'm thinking about this, Satya, because Satya, like, well, you should, if you were cornered or something, then you, like, if somebody highlighted you, then you would condemn it. I might like feel like, why do I have to complain? It has nothing to do with me. So I might even go out of my way. Like, this is so obviously condemnable that the fact that you're asking me to condemn it is an insult to me. Like, why am I being asked to condemn this man? The guy committed murder. Like, obviously it's wrong. So I just think, like, if you go to, if I was a Muslim, I would feel the same thing. Like, if I was a Muslim and I was like, somebody just killed a whole bunch of innocent people, like, Armin, as a Muslim, would you condemn it? I feel insulted. I feel like, dude, he just committed a whole bunch of innocent people. Why? Like, the fact that you're questioning the idea that I might not condemn this because I'm a Muslim, it means that you are think that me being a Muslim might suggest that I would be okay with killing a whole bunch of innocent people. Like, I'm like, I don't want to condemn this because I don't want to give in to this idea that you think like this is so obviously wrong that it doesn't even need to be said. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I might actually condemn it because it wouldn't be helpful if I didn't condemn it, but I would be really pissed the fact that I'm being told to, like, you must condemn this. You know what I mean?
Yes, I get that.
Yeah.
But like, what if you have met that person just before he committed the murder or something?
What if I what?
What if you had met the person like just before he had committed the murder?
I mean, okay, I would. That it gets me involved in this story a lot more than what we're suggesting here. We're talking about degrees of separation so wide.
Yes, like,
Now you're throwing me in the middle of that story. That would completely change the entire scenario.
like then you should, right?
Well, I mean, like, I just met the person. First of all, there's no like. I need to know what the story is more. Like, what happened? Who's this guy? Like,
Like
you have. This is a very odd situation. All of a sudden, you change the entire story.
Okay, so like you
I
met a
mean,
guy.
if he was my okay, so let's say, for example, he was your friend, okay, and you're like, why should, like, and you're crying, like, you're like so upset about it. Like, it would be weird if I like commented like, hey, would you condemn it? Your friend was just murdered. Like, what do you, like, that would be a weird thing to ask me. Like, of course, like, it's kind of like, Satya, if your friend was killed by a mob, should you be made to condemn it? Like, why would I even need to condemn it? Like, this is so
No, no, no.
obvious.
If the friend was the one who committed the murder,
Wait, if you yourself committed the murder, should you condemn
no,
it?
no, like
Huh.
like a friend
Oh,
of
your
mine who
friend.
was
I thought your friend
yes.
died. Oh, it
No,
was
no,
your
no. My
friend.
friend committed the murder like just after meeting me. Just 2 days after meeting me, like something like that.
Why? Okay, is there a suspicion that you're in favor of it? Because sometimes things are so obvious that if you ask, so for example, if my friend all of a sudden committed a murder, nobody would ask, like nobody in the right mind would, like, I would be so shocked. I'm like, we didn't know how this happened. Nobody would like, okay, I mean, I know you're shocked and everything, but can you condemn the murder? Like, what? Dude, like, what the hell? Of course. like why would you even think that I'm like, anybody asking you to condemn a murder is kind of implicitly suggesting that you might be pro-murder. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, yes, I agree.
Like, for example, Satya, if your friend, your closest friend, okay, raped an entire village, okay, and I came to you and then like, condemn your friend, wouldn't you be like, dude, like, what the hell? Why would you ask me that?
Yes, like I would definitely feel weird.
Yeah. Okay, so this weirdness that you're feeling, I think, like, a lot of Muslims are right to feel like that when people are like, hey, condemn these mass murders, condemn these acts of terror. Like, by asking that, you're suggesting that they're potential mass murderers or like themselves. That if they like, you could be like, hey, I'm watching you. I know that every single one of you are a potential dangerous person. That's what you're doing when you're asking them to condemn them.
Yes, I agree.
Do you think Muslims need to have a constitution or something that outlines that as being a Muslim, these are the values
No,
that we stand for, essentially? Not an official
I don't think so.
constitution, but for example,
Is it,
let me
don't you
finish that.
have that already? Yeah, it's a
No, no, but
Quran.
we have a
Oh.
Quran, but you might say that the Quran stands for certain, by your interpretation, it stands for certain values. I might read it and say it stands for certain values. So, do you feel that the Muslims, in general, should say, yes, I follow this Quran and I adhere to this, and these are the principles that I take from the scripture?
I mean, that's called the tafsir,
No,
and that's called the.
the
I mean,
tasfirs
I
are
mean,
of the time, and there have been disagreements
okay.
in regards to tasfirs even.
I mean, they
Um,
do that already, and that's why they have, because they disagree all the time. We have so many different branches. There's so many different sects, so many different understandings. I mean, there's no you. I mean, they don't agree on the interpretation, so there's no way to come up with one understanding.
okay, would you like that? For example, you meet me, and I say, well, these are my values, for example, and I had a list of my values basically according to the Islam that I perceive it to be. So there would be no understanding. So like, because one question happened, I'll leave that. That's for another topic. Because I'm offended that people straight away when you find out that I'm a Muslim, someone goes, "Oh, what about the age of Aisha? What do you think? Should I even?" This is a thought I've had. Should I have to defend it, talk about it, or even acknowledge it, or should I be offended that someone even asks me that question?
Well,
Because
if you brought it up, then yeah, that's
say if I
fine. But
didn't. So,
if
for example, in the comments, there was a person. They said, "Is friendly Muslim in the chat?" I said no, and then they straight away the first question they asked was about the marriage of Aisha. So, should I be offended by that question straight away? Should I disregard the person straight away? How do you think I should feel about that?
mm, I think annoyed would be the proper response. I wouldn't be. I mean, if I was you, I wouldn't be offended. I would be annoyed. It's kind of like it's kind of like you meeting a gay person, and all of a sudden questioning them about their sexual life, just as soon as you find out that they're gay. Like, yeah, just the knowledge that they're gay just gives you the permission to all of a sudden ask people about their sexual lives and sexual preferences, or or even worse, as soon as you find out that somebody's trans, gives you the permission to start asking about their genitals or even their,
Yeah, I think that's
like.
so wrong. I think I'm really conflicted about this because I think that you should just identify them as their name. I don't think you have to use he or she, for example. I think that's
I
the
think if you're curious, though, you should like try to get a like. Here's what I recommend to people. Okay, you find that somebody is a Muslim, and you really want to ask them a question, and you're so curious, and you don't know if it's okay. Okay, I think the question that you're allowed to ask is that the first question is like, "Hey, I'm curious about some certain things in Islam. Would it be okay if I ask you some questions?" I think that's the only question that you should be able to ask, and then the person can kill you like nope or yes, and they give you the green light or the red light to proceed. Right? Same thing with everybody else. Like if somebody is like finds out that I'm an atheist, right? I think like there's like, hey, if they find that I'm an atheist, if you find that somebody's an atheist, I don't think you should give yourself the green light to be like, how could you not believe in God, given this and this and this and that, right? You should, but I think the polite question that you could ask them, like, oh, you're an atheist. I have some questions about atheism. Is it okay if I ask you? And they could be like, no, yes, or maybe not right now. Um, what do you think? I think that's a polite way to go about it. Just get the permission first before you ask the questions.
yeah,
But
no,
then
no,
you have
no.
to give this privilege to like the horrible ideas like the Nazis and everyone. Like if somebody shows up and does that Hitler salute, and then you have to be like, okay, so you're a Nazi, and I would like to ask you a question. So like, will we have to do that too?
Um, no, okay. So the difference is that they're so unanimously a-holes, that they're, that they're a danger to society. You know what I mean? Like the harm from individuals that belong to that group is far greater than the harm that you're trying to avoid by being polite, by holding back. Unless you think like, actually no, maybe because some people would suggest actually you being polite to them is the best way to, um, you know, get them to change, reconsider their ideas. But I'm saying is that the measure over their, whatever your philosophy is, the calculation there is completely off. Okay, so for example, and the number of people, the people who are Nazis, because this is like a much smaller group of people, right? So, for example, if you went back to during World War II, then there are so many people who might be just nominal Nazis, but didn't even understand the ideology or weren't horrible people, but just they're they're part of Germany, and Germany is a Nazi country, and they're endorsing this political system, and they're by default nominal Nazis. You can't just say like all of Germany at that time were horrible people. You know what I mean? And I
Yes.
just think like, so, but once an ideology that extreme is defeated and becomes smaller and smaller and smaller, the people that remain in it, they will become the worst of those, the most radical
Yes.
elements of that idea. So right now you could say that the members of that group are the vast majority, or all of them are horrible people. I honestly like, I think that about Islam as well, right? I think the vast majority of Muslims are really good people, but I think when the day comes that Islam turns into a small cult, then the remaining members within that cult are probably more radical. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to be like just the radical elements left. Okay, that they're refusing to leave this cult. Okay, so that's why it's a difference. There's a huge difference between Christianity, Islam, and a group like Nazis.
Okay.
Anyways.
Like that.
But yeah,
That was
but
a
I
really
agree with
good to
Dark
hear.
in the live chat. Like, you could still be. I'm not saying don't be a decent person to a member of that group, but not because they deserve it, but because if you have any chance of changing their opinion, it will probably be by being a nice person. You know what I mean?
Okay, so
Yes.
to this Tezuro, is it Zururusu? How do you think I
Troel.
should?
Yeah.
Okay, how do you think I should respond to that one? If you're unhappy with people asking, I should just unsubscribe to the religion.
Well, are you a person? Depends on you. Are you a person who wants to have that conversation, or a person who doesn't want that conversation?
I don't. I'm of the position now. I'm actually going to make a video of it, and then I won't have to deal with this ongoing. But um, I believe I shouldn't be asked about it. To be honest, I don't think I should have to be
But then, okay,
justify
but
it.
do you
I'm
want
not.
to have that? Yeah, but do you want to have that conversation even though you think you shouldn't be asked about it, but then after that, do you like to have that conversation with them or no?
If someone asked me, I probably would.
Okay, so you could say, for example, there's three responses. Okay, well, there are a couple of responses. One is like, you shouldn't be asking this. You could tell them like, listen, just because I'm a Muslim, that doesn't mean that I have to be able. You could just ask me about that. I'm answerable to any random person that comes and talks to me. Okay, and I'm not gonna answer you. Okay, and or you could say like, hey, don't think that just because I'm a Muslim, I have to be you could just come and ask me questions and I have to be answerable to every random person that asks me. However, I will like to, I would answer your question, but just don't do this with anybody else. I will have this conversation with you because I'm ready to have this conversation with you because I have, this is something that I'm familiar with and I have done research for and I'm eager to talk about it. But don't do this with other people just because they happen to be Muslim. And you could have give them an example. Do you think, for example, if you just meet somebody who's gay, do you think that gives you the green light to all of a sudden start talking about their sexuality? Like, no. So you can't do that with a Muslim as well, or an atheist. Just because you happen to know somebody is an atheist, are you going to all of a sudden question them about their views? Like, do you think that you have the permission to just question them? Maybe ask for permission first before you start questioning somebody about their worldview. Maybe they're not comfortable having that conversation with every random person. Do you know how annoying it is for people to just constantly like question you about certain things just because you belong to a certain group, right? And
This
even
happens a
if
lot
they
in the West. I'm saying
and
that this happens a lot in the West.
if they say like, "Hey, I'm a Christian or I'm a vegan," you could ask me about my views, and I wouldn't. I will answer you. I have no problem. But like, okay, maybe don't project your own personal preferences to other people. Just because you're okay with answering people about whatever questions they ask you, that doesn't mean that other people are. Maybe if you want to be a polite, if you don't want to be a polite person, then well, don't be an a-hole. But if you want to be a polite person, I suggest you ask people first if they're okay about having certain conversations with you before you just jump right in. Or you could potentially ignore them and just be like, go away. I don't want to talk to you. That's another option. I don't think there's a right answer. So you're asking me what is the right answer? I'm saying all of these are right answers. How could you have a wrong answer? Because it really depends on you as an individual about what you're comfortable with.
Like when Hindus go to the West, like it most often happens to them that somebody just comes up to them and says, "What's your caste?" Like so many people
Oh,
have told me that they are annoyed by it. Like
yeah.
Do you
this
feel the
happens very
caste system
common.
now should just be like at this point now? It just shouldn't even be discussed, and there should be no discussions or villages and different sort of things that people ask. You know, what village are you from? Where are you
I
from in
think
India? And these sort of things.
uh, so. You are asking me about caste, right? Like what I think about caste and what should be the future of it.
Yeah.
I think that caste, like in its entirety, should be abolished. But I have no problems with like people like remembering that oh my grandparents were like of this caste, and but they shouldn't have any like identity associated with it other than like history, the sense of history, without supremacy, of course.
Yeah, I think I agree. I think we all agree with that. Anyway, I have to go because I'm going to die, but I'm just going to read two more comments in the live chat. Troll is saying, unless a woman wears a hijab, I cannot tell whether a person is a Muslim. My premise is that a person initiates a conversation about Islam or justifies or demands something based on Islam. Yeah, but even then, I will still ask permission before I start a conversation about Islam. Like, I don't think it's, I think. Friendly Muslim, let me know if you think this is fine or not. If I see somebody is wearing a hijab, okay, and I do give myself, I think it's still it's okay for me to be like, hey, um, would it be okay if I talk about Islam to you? Do you think that would be rude? Like if I have some questions about Islam, let me know if that's okay to ask. Do you think that's rude or not?
I think you can ask. I think you could also now with your premise. Why are you presuming that someone just wearing a scarf is a Muslim? Because I've actually come across more Christians recently that have started wearing headscarves, and other traditions also. So are you
You
then
could
just
tell You could
yeah,
tell. I mean, you could mostly tell the type of headscarf that is Islamic from the ones that are not.
true?
And it,
But I have
and
come across people
it
that aren't though, that wear the same type
okay,
of
but
hijab.
what is that so bad to make a mistake? They were like, "Oh, I actually happen to be wearing one of those scarves that really very much looks like the Islamic scarf, but it's not an Islamic scarf." And you just made a mistake. Would that be there? Like, would that be like such a tragedy that I made that
No, no.
mistake? They could just clarify.
I think you could then say, if you are a Muslim, I would like to ask you some questions about Islam. Yeah, no, it'd be
Yeah, I mean, but given
uh,
that, like, if you are a
semantics,
Muslim, I mean, if somebody is wearing a headscarf and I tell them like an Islamic-looking headscarf, and I say, if you are a Muslim, she's gonna be like, if I'm a Muslim, bitch, look at my headscarf. Like, what are you talking? I think
It
that
can be
would
like
be.
culturally Muslim and not religiously. I don't know whether this argument plays into Islam or not, but in like Hinduism, it does play that.
If you'd like to send me your questions for me to answer during our Q&As, become a patron. If you would like to have a discussion with me live on air at the end of the Q&As, become a YouTube member. Link to both is in the description. Thank you for your support.